Hello everyone, it's Nathan from Nathan's DIY Garage. Today we're going to take the instrument cluster out of a BMW E39. Okay, so this is a parts car, so the steering wheel is already gone. But you need to remember, you do not have to take the steering wheel off to get the cluster out. The next thing is already gone is this little piece right here. This has two holes, and this thing just pries out. It pops in those two holes, a little piece of wood just like this side. So what we're going to do, we're going to go and pull this side out. We get under the side, and we're just gently going to work it out. Grab a hold of it. I like to do this. Just grab it and just wiggle it. And a lot of times, it'll come right out. Unless you're doing a video, then it's going to be a pain in the ass. Okay, so this one's already had the screws out. Well, it doesn't have the screws out. Somebody didn't know what they were doing. You can see the holes up here where the screws are at are just broken out. So we get the focus. So apparently somebody didn't know you have to take the screws out, so they just ripped it out, about like everything else. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna unplug this stuff. We're gonna unplug the headlight switch. It just pulls out like so. Same with the dimmer, like so. Same with the fog lights. We're gonna lift this out of the way. I'm gonna set that off to the side. Okay. So now we're gonna be left with just the cluster and only. There's screws up here. I don't know why this thing won't focus. What the hell? Well, anyway, there's a screw right here, there's a screw right here. That actually holds in the cluster itself. Okay, so these are T10s. And all I like to do is use a 1/4" drive ratchet. And when the steering wheel is on here, this will allow you to get in here and get these out easily. We're going to go and pull those two screws out and we'll come back. Okay, so we have those two screws out. One other thing I want to point out, we had to take off this wooden trim on both sides because of these screws, these Phillips screws. There's 3 of them all together. Luckily, whoever took this one out, I already snapped them all off. So it wasn't too big of a problem. I'm not sure how people break this much stuff on these cars. That kind of gives these cars a bad name. They're not bad cars, but you got to pay attention to what you're doing. If you're just ripping and tearing and breaking stuff off, it's going to be a terrible car. But then again, so will anything else. So here we are. We're going to pull the cluster out on the top. We're just going to rock it out like this. And then if your steering wheel is going to be on it, we're just going to fish it just like this. So I'm going to go and pull it out, and you can work it out with the steering wheel in it. The steering wheel has the big slot. You want to turn that up to the top. You'll be able to work that in and out and get that undone. Now these clusters, there's several different ones. There's actually a bunch of different ones. This car had navigation. As you can see, it's not in there, but obviously had navigation, not a regular stereo. So a lot of you guys get these cars in, the LEDs don't work. You have two choices. You can either send it off, get it fixed for $100+, or you could do what everybody else does. You can shop on eBay and try to get one with the same mileage you have to switch out to a good working one. Now, I'm not against going with the eBay method. There is a few problems with that though. So this is what you call a high cluster. This is actually a high cluster with navigation. So the number right here, the 62 number, whatever cluster you put in, that must match. There is no way around it. If that don't, it will not work. Now, you have a high cluster with navigation that has 3 plugs. Okay, this one has 3 plugs. 1, 2, 3. You also have a high cluster without navigation. However, these 3 plugs will not go in the the high non-navigation cluster. The high navigation cluster has to be in a car that has a navigation. Okay? The cars without navigation and that do not have a high cluster, that's called the low cluster. So a low cluster has 2 plugs on it. It'll be one on each side. So how you tell, you don't have to take it out to tell at all. This is how you tell. You can see on the bottom here. Let me go and unplug it and I'll be able to show you better. Okay, so here's how you tell the difference from a high cluster to a low cluster. This is the high cluster. It's going to have a long window at the bottom. This is going to be your display, and it's going to be short, about 1 inch tall. It's going to have a small window on each side. Now, this is always found in the navigation cars on E39, and it's kind of sporadically throughout the other E39s without navigation. You could have either or. It just depends. The difference is going to be, this is going to read out, like let's say if you have license plate light problems, it's going to read out license plate light error, whatever it says, or tail light. Also check coolant, which you do not get on the low cluster cars, and stuff like that. Okay, so here's the low cluster. You see the low cluster has these little squares. That's 3 of them in the middle. So this cluster does not read out check coolant, check tail lights. It has a picture of a car on the left that shows you, obviously, the door is open. It's going to show you whether the tail lights are out or the headlights and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so there's something else I want to talk about. These cars have a feature where you can see up here with the miles, you can see the little dot under the miles. Okay, so that little dot is going to tell whether this cluster's been switched. Now this is the car I bought a couple years ago. Sold my buddy. This light was on. The car actually looked like it had fewer miles than what it was showing, which is kind of odd. You just never know for sure. But on the E39s, I would say every other one I get in has this light on. There's some other stuff you could do too. A change of ECU could also cause that. A lot of people get freaked out over that. But man, it's so common anymore when so many of these cars also have problems with the cluster with the LEDs going out. So anyway guys, that's pretty much the drama with the E39 clusters. This is a pretty common occurrence. There are guys on eBay and Amazon that are fixing the clusters. You send yours off, you get it back. That way you have the right mileage exactly. That way the VIN on the back of the cluster matches your car, if that matters to you. But that's all for today's video, guys. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. And check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Nathan's DIY Garage. Thank you.